Hi friends, welcome back to Artful Homemaking. My name is Joy and I'm a wife, a mom of 5, and a homemaker. Today I just wanted to talk about homemaking with chronic illness and trials. This is a topic that means a lot to me because I have struggled with chronic illness and our family has walked through quite a few trials in the past, 5 to 10 years. In 2016, I lost my father. In 2017, my father-in-law passed away. Then my husband and I both started kind of taking turns dealing with different chronic illness situations. So I just wanted to today talk about chronic illness and homemaking in the midst of that. I wanted to acknowledge the difficulty that it is. Just acknowledge that it's so difficult to be walking through that situation. And also I wanted to try to provide some tips and some ideas for keeping your home somewhat in order in the midst of walking through chronic illness and different trials. So with certain types of chronic illness, you have good days and you have bad days. There are certainly lots of different types of chronic illness. But with the type of chronic illness that I have walked through, sometimes there will be days that are better than other days. So on those days, I like to try to get as much done as I possibly can. When I'm feeling a little bit better, I try to work on my to-do list. I try to get a few things done. And I like to start the good days with a little bit of makeup and getting dressed. So I usually put one of my house dresses on, which is my preferred uniform for homemaking. And I just do minimal makeup, a little bit of lip gloss. Here I'm using Toups & Co. lip gloss. I love Toups & Co. This is not sponsored, but I just love this company because they do have such natural and beautiful makeup products. I'll put a link down below. Also, I have a coupon code if you're interested in that I'll put in the description box below. So I have the Toups & Co. lip gloss, I have eyeshadow, the eyeliner, and the mascara, and I'm trying to choose a foundation shade currently. But I love their makeup, so I like to start the day by just combing my hair, putting some makeup on, or if it's a hair washing day, I will get in the shower. I also love this natural eye cream. I'll put a link for that below. I've been using this for the past 4 or 5 years, and I just really enjoy using it. So first I like to get dressed, and if I'm doing house cleaning chores, I like to put on an apron, and then I get started on my to-do list. Generally what I do is I make a list of everything that I would like to accomplish the night before. I usually will just do a brain dump on a piece of paper in a plain notebook, and I write down everything I'd like to get done. Usually I don't even get half of it done, and some people might find this kind of discouraging to have a list filled with things that you didn't get done. But if I don't get them done, I just move them to my next list. It doesn't really bother me. I personally like to just get everything out of my head onto a piece of paper. First, I'd like to talk about a couple of tools that I use to try to keep my brain somewhat organized, even on the days where I feel like I can't even get out of bed. I do have a homemaking binder, and I've done a video on that, and you can find it here on the channel. My homemaking binder, it basically eliminates decision fatigue because I've already made quite a few choices with my homemaking binder. So I have a master meals list in there, master breakfast and lunch list as well, master snack list. That way if I'm feeling completely brain dead and I have no inspiration, I can just go to these lists in my binder and figure out, what we might be able to eat, or what I might be able to make for a snack, something like that. Those lists are very helpful for me. You can make lists for anything in your life that you need to pre-decide, something that will just help you later. And I also have a schedule. I know that when you have chronic illness, it's really difficult to follow a schedule, if not impossible. Oftentimes I will go for months and months and not do my schedule as it is written. However, I still like to have the schedule so that I know what it is I'm aiming for. I can see what my goals are for the day. I can tell what it is I'm aiming at. So I like to make a full schedule of my ideal day. Now, I don't make it too unrealistic. For instance, I don't have myself getting up at 5 in the morning whenever I know that I'm struggling with chronic illness, and I'm not going to be able to get up at 5 because I haven't slept all night, because I'm in pain, or whatever. So the schedule does not always happen as written. In fact, it usually doesn't. But it's my ideal, this is what I would go for. Now, so what I try to do is I try to pick a time, and you don't even have to pick a wake-up time and a bedtime. Because I know that with chronic illness, sometimes sometimes you may know with your particular chronic illness that you're going to feel bad every day. That may be your situation, or that you have to do things a certain way, like you have to get up later for whatever reason. So you can make your schedule using realistic time frames, something that actually could work for you. So if you need to get up at 8 or later and start your day then, whatever time it is, it doesn't matter, then you can make a schedule starting at that time. Or you can also make a schedule with no times on it. And I have utilized this idea before. You just put an outline of what you would like for your day to look like, and you don't worry about the times at all because you know they're not going to happen that way. So you could just have, wake up, get in the shower, if you do some form of exercise or stretching or something like that, you can put anything that you want to do and just put all of your things that you want to get done in a day. And even if you know that you're not always going to be able to do that, follow that schedule as it's written on a daily basis whenever you're dealing with chronic illness. Personally, it doesn't bother me to have the schedule written out. Some people may not like this idea, and that's fine. If it doesn't work for you, just ignore this idea. But for me, I like to go ahead and have a schedule so that I know what I'm aiming for. So then if I do wake up one day and I think, wow, I slept pretty well last night, and I'm up earlier than usual because I did actually get, 6 hours of sleep or something like that, then I can look at my ideal schedule and think, wow, what am I going to do today? So first I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And it just gives me something, kind of a framework for the day. So I personally like to have a daily schedule, or you can call it a routine. You can have something very loose. You can make it more rigid. I suggest if you are dealing with chronic illness, the looser the better, probably, so that you won't end up feeling defeated. But whatever works for you, that's the thing that we always need to keep in mind, is we are all different. Our chronic illness and trials, they are all different. Our family situations are all different. Our circumstances are different. So I think that's one of the keys to coming to peace with your situation, is realizing that it's not going to look like everyone else's day. Your life isn't going to look like everyone else's. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. So probably one of my main tips for someone walking through a time of chronic illness, trials, anything that makes it so that it's difficult to stick with a schedule, I would just say give yourself grace. Give yourself lots and lots of grace, because chronic illness is very difficult to walk through. And we don't need to be beating ourselves up as we're going through this very difficult trial. It's bad enough that we have to walk through the trials. It's difficult enough to deal with without also feeling upset with ourselves because we're not doing as well as we want to be, and our life does not look as successful as someone else's. So definitely give yourself loads of grace, and that's probably my biggest advice. That's probably the most helpful thing you could do when you're walking through chronic illness. So I do use this homemaking binder as kind of like it's my brain in a binder. My chronic illness, I deal with brain fog and difficulty thinking, lots of times making decisions. It's really helpful to me to have all of these things in this binder. So I use the binder to remind me of things that I want to get done, projects that I want to get done. If you find that helpful, I highly recommend setting up a homemaking binder. Also, I use a very simple and basic notebook, like from the dollar store. I just got a cheap notebook, and this is what I use at night to write my brain dump in. So before I go to bed, I just open up to a new page and put the date for the following day, and I just write everything that's in my head that I want to get done the next day. And this, again, may not be helpful to you, but I'm addicted to doing this. I've been doing this for probably my whole adult life. I just love it. If you find that helpful, that may be something to try. Also, I have a planner that I use, and this is the one that I use. It's the Passionate Penny Pincher planner, and she has a list of daily chores and things to get done right there in the planner. Some people find this a lot of pressure because they feel obligated to check those things off the list every day. I personally like seeing them there because they remind me, especially on a day where I'm not really following the schedule because I can't. I feel like having this list right there in the planner is useful, but some people may not feel that it's useful, but I thought I would share it just in case it would be helpful. And I'll put a link to this planner in the description box below. There's another planner that I have used, and this is an undated planner, which might be helpful because that way you don't feel any pressure to use it in a certain period of time. I'll put a link to that planner as well because I used it for, I think, 4 years. It's also a good and useful planner to have if you find using a planner to be helpful. Some people don't, and that's perfectly fine as well. You can also put all of this information right in your homemaking binder, and then you can just have one thing to use. I personally have my homemaking binder, my plain notebook, and my planner. I use all three of those things, and I find them to be useful, but it might be overkill for some people. Some people may not need so many different pieces of paper, and some people may not use paper at all. You can also use a digital planner or, whatever works for you. I just find it useful, especially with chronic illness, because I can't keep all of the ideas, information, and schedules in my head. I need to have it written down somewhere or it's just gone. So those might be some helpful tools. Another tip that I would have is on a good day, if you have days that are better than others, that's the perfect time to plan to do the projects that you've been hoping you could get to, but you just didn't feel like you could. To plan a freezer cooking day and a food prep day, and to prep as many things as you possibly can ahead of time. That way, whenever you have the days where you're not feeling as well, you can just pull something out of the freezer, pull something off the pantry shelves that you've already created. That's what I try to do if I have a better day. Then I will try to get as much done as possible. I have heard people say that then we are prone to having kind of a burnout situation and then feeling even worse the next day. And sometimes that does happen. But for me personally, with my specific health issue, if I wake up and have a good day, I do as much as I possibly can if I feel up to it. And if I need to spend the next day in bed or just not being as productive, then that's what I do because I can't stand not getting things done. That's what I do. It may not work for every situation, especially if you're in some type of situation where there aren't really any really great days. If all of the days are very difficult, that's going to be a whole different situation where you would probably need to recruit helpers, hire someone to come in and help you clean or, ask a family member for help, which I also do. I have adult children living at home and they are a great help to me. They help with the cooking. They do so much of the cooking. During the worst of my chronic illness, they have done all of the cooking. So I'm so grateful for them and to them for all of the help. And I try to make up for it. When I'm feeling better, I try to, cook something special or, just get back on top of things. And I am honestly hoping this won't always be my reality, that maybe one day I could, start feeling better, that I could get in a place of health. But for now, since chronic illness is part of my situation, I've tried to find ways to cope and ways to keep life somewhat cheerful and keep our home from falling apart all around us all the time. But the biggest thing for me is just to give yourself grace, just to be kind to yourself when you're going through difficult times. It is so hard, I know, to watch other wives and mothers who are not struggling with chronic illness or trials currently, as they get so much done and they get to do so many things. And I just want you to know that I can empathize with you, and I know that it's hard. I know that especially if you're someone like I am, I love checking things off the list. I love accomplishing projects. I love getting things done. And I'm at my happiest when I'm being productive. But with chronic illness, often it's hard to see that. It's hard to see anything getting done, and it's hard to feel like you've been productive. And that is so difficult whenever you're someone, especially when I think it's difficult for everyone, of course, especially if that's where you gain pleasure from accomplishing things, from, getting things done. That makes it even harder. And I just want you to know I understand how hard it is. I hope this video has been helpful and encouraging to you. Maybe I hope it's given you some ideas for ways to cope with chronic illness and trials of life. And at the very least, just knowing that someone else is there with you, struggling, and that I do understand. Thank you so much for watching and being here with me today, and I'll see you next time.